Thank you. If you present my fellow speakers, I'll have the time to insert this USB key, which is very difficult to insert. Give me a second, please. Well, I'll take my time in order to thank the organizers for a perfect abstract. If I can't make it, the abstract is perfect, so you don't need the PowerPoint. I want to thank the interpreter because he has to endure my C language, English, and yourselves, of course, for being here. And I will be presenting shortly Katalava, of which I'm a founder, one of the founders, actually. But beforehand, let me be your therapist, because I know that all conference interpreters endure angst, existential agony. Our conference interpreter is going to be obsolete. Everybody's speaking English. And efficient machine translation applications will be there in 5 years or 10 years. Well, English is an international business language. Is it true? Do native English speakers do believe this? There was a very interesting study by the British Chambers of Commerce in 2015, published by The Economist, that revealed that 25% of the first-time exporters from UK, presumably they speak English, declared that the major impediment encountered in doing so was efficient communication. So there is room for conference interpreters. Of course, English is an international business language. There is room for conference interpreters. There is room for other. And as far as machine translation is concerned, no, I will not be discussing that. I'm sorry. As a professional, I came here to try to take you with me in this journey of 30 years. I was at the stage in SKIC in 1985, and one of my mentors is present here. She has just retired, Mrs. Pouliou. Congratulations. And all those years, I have experienced this angst, this fear, because I was in the free market for many, many years. For 25 years, I am the coordinator of BICI, an interpretation agency in Athens. And I was asking myself, how can I move forward? How can I access the new markets? Actually, the screen is wrong. It's not how can we. It's how can I do it? How can I go on? How can I be better? And I was fully aware of the fact that I was living in a changing world. And we all know that. And I was going through in a changing world in the economic crisis in Greece. But was it a pretext or a cause? Because we all know that there was a golden age for interpretation. Not anymore. And yes, during all those years, after the 40s, the 50s, there were many efforts in many countries in order to organize ourselves, we conference interpreters. not only the AIC, other initiatives as well, in order to defend professional standards, in order to defend quality. But nowadays, the pie is shrinking in many, many countries. The number of interpreters is growing, thanks God. We need them. The competition is fierce and not really rewarding, because we are not salespersons, not marketing persons, we are interpreters. But we are not in an ivory castle, we are in the market. I'm speaking as a practitioner, and I'm sorry for that. I know that there's a different perspective from many, many people in here. But we'll find a common ground. I'm convinced about that. So I was saying that we're living in a changing world, of course. The economy changes, politics are changing fast. New players, new challenges, demography is booming. Small enterprises need, in order to survive, a larger share in world trade. And it's the same for various federations and associations in international cooperation. Things change. We have video conferencing now. 5 years ago, it was not that easy. Connection speeds were not sufficient. All sorts of apps, all sorts of time pressure. Smartphones. There is an organism on the Greek employment market, Karriera GR, and they were saying recently that the number of CVs sent to them by young people by phone only 3 years ago was 2%. This percentage today is more than 50%. Geography changes, languages change. Some of you may not remember that there used to be an organization for economic cooperation in Eastern Europe and Soviet Union, the Comecon, and Russian was widely spoken there. Now we have 20 official languages, from Czech to Ukrainian, from Lithuanian to Romanian. And where Serbian was the official language in former Yugoslavia, now we have 7 official languages. And even more, our profession, in the large sense of the term, is diversifying. Some years ago, we had conference interpreters and non-professional interpreters. Now we have very good professionals who are professional coach interpreters, professional health interpreters, professional community interpreters, and so on and so forth. Furthermore, there are reasons to change. We want to define ourselves as an inclusive society. An inclusive society wants handicapped people, people that give time for parenting or family care, seniors, people that might be provisionally incapacitated or out of town for any reason, to be able to work and participate when they wish to do so. What are we doing for them? Business organizations, of course, they want to adopt a lean model. But in parallel, they need to be open to societies, to markets, to new markets. They need more linguistic services. Linguistic services is a booming sector internationally. Only last week, Téléperformance, a French company, bought Language Solutions, I think was its name, from the States, for $1.5 billion. It's a big gain. So businesses are opening to societies and to new markets. Transport is cheaper, but business travels are multiplied. And in times of political turmoil, traveling costs money, time, it pollutes, and is often a cause of anxiety and stress. So let me be clear, because I'll be presenting Katalava, a new technological system. But I firmly believe that on-site interpretation is, of course, the best way to do things. The traditional training organization is the most enriching one, and I can't resist the temptation to remember September 22nd, 1985. You had just finished the stage, Haris. but I was with Gavril Pentsikis, a very dear colleague from Thessaloniki. And he gave for me a speech about alcoholic beverages. And he said something about sherry. And because in Greek we do not have the sound, the phoneme sh, sh, he said something like cherry. And I thought I recognized the cherry liqueur, which I had discovered in my dad's stash back home 10 years earlier. And I said cherry liqueur, and he was upset, and we had a very vivid discussion. And there were five other trainees, 5 professional interpreters, our mentors from this geek, myself, Gavril, and we had a very vivid discussion about phonemes, the way to tackle all those problems with the way we understand those phonemes in a different language and so on and so forth. It was wonderful. 1985, today, 30 years. Same thing goes for good old consecutive. For me, it's absolutely the best way to send the message home. Haris Ginos and his friends from the AIC organized some months ago a wonderful soirée cocktail for the Nuremberg trial, and they had invited the son of one of the Kaminkers, the famous interpreters of the UN, Georges and André. And we were all amazed when the son of Georges, I think, was telling us how his father was interpreting in the Security Council. So the Russian foreign minister was speaking for 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 40 minutes, and this guy was looking on the roof. And he was turning around, and then again. And then he entered the bathtub, la baignoire of the Security Council, because it was a round room, and he started interpreting, always looking on the roof. And his son revealed to us that during all the speech of the Russian foreign minister, he was drawing in his mind a mental comic with bullets, with colors, with schemes. So when he was interpreting, he was just reading his notes on the roof. Are you jealous? Well, I am. All this in order to say, once and for all, that I am convinced that it was a very nice world, but it is the old world. We have to keep the best of it, and we have to keep on going. Those practices are nowadays deemed expensive, time-consuming, and complicated to organize. And as Killian says, those are places and practices where considerable investments in human resources and equipment have to be made. So, what is next? The key to move forward. Innovation, of course. And innovation is not producing video recorders. Innovation is to know how to use them. Technical problems? No. Incompetence. When I asked what was the download and upload speed in this room, somebody said it's 100 megabps, and they tried to impress me. Then I turned on the counter. It was 5 megabps. And the minimum rate was 2.9. 2.9 divided by the number of users. So maybe it was 290 kilobps. There's nothing wrong with the technology. The information was wrong. But all of that just in order to say that back then, after the Security Council, the bathtub, the Kamenkets, and so on and so forth, came a revolution. In Geneva in 1941, they started with simultaneous interpretation. Only some years later, we had the Nuremberg trial. The practice of simultaneous was scolded by many seasoned colleagues then. They said, it should never work. Well, it worked. And we have been working with simultaneous since then. So that's the past. And then from a professional, what can I do? How can I move forward? I understood that I have to go to the we. We have to move forward because I can't do anything myself. By myself, I'm too small. I'm nothing. How can we embrace change? How can we benefit from technology? And this we has an answer, a business, because an association is a nice thing, but a business is more efficient. So we brought some answers. Κατάλαβα by conference interpreters, because the developers are behind the conference interpreters in this initiative. And the idea is listen to, think and speak in your mother tongue. And I like this expression, the mother tongue. A colleague of ours, an American, Barry Olson, was in a TEDx conference recently, and he was quoting Nelson Mandela. And Nelson Mandela used to say, when you speak to a man in a language that he understands, you speak to his mind. When you speak to a man in his mother tongue, you speak to his heart. Well, I like that. Our answer is Κατάλαβα by conference interpreters. It gives us the possibility to have simultaneous interpretation during a video conference. Video conference accessible by any PC or mobile device, just with a sound web connection, a real connection, and a simple headset. And interpretation is the fact of a worldwide network of certified conference interpreters trained on the platform's requirements. The available languages. This solution, as it looked on December 19th, 2014, I remember the day because it was on the very same day that Google presented its automatic translation. By then, I knew that I had only two competitors in the world. There was nothing on the web. Google and Microsoft. And Κατάλαβα. Well, today, I learned about the third competitor, the European Commission and the SCIC. But I think that we can complete parts of the needs, but we'll be discussing that later. So, for a one-to-one session, you go on the website, you click on Book Now, you select languages, date, time, and duration. The interpreter's availability is confirmed. You pay, or you enter the code number you have been granted, if it is a school or a community, and so on and so forth, and you receive the unique individual digital keys. With those keys, when you activate it on due time, you are immediately transported in the right session and the right place. If you're an interpreter as an interpreter, a user as a user, and so on and so forth. 4 solutions, the one-to-one, the meeting facilitator, the conference call magnifier, and the newsroom booster. One-to-one, you can imagine. The meeting facilitator is for many people and many interpreters, and the conference call magnifier is working with the conference organizer. If, for instance, our colleagues wanted to invite 2 professors from Tirana in order to ask them what happens with interpreters training in Albania, it could be too expensive to have one more booth and interpreters and so on and so forth. They could follow in English, but then when they take the floor, we can help them with Κατάλαβα in a very economical way. And the newsroom booster, we have events and disasters and so on and so forth, and important political speeches all over the world. For medias, fast and direct is very important. So with Κατάλαβα, they can send us any feeding from any part of the world, and the newsroom can have the interpretation, and of course they have ready-made content to send on air whenever and if they decide to do so. And those solutions are already available. We think that with this system we're creating value. It's fast and easy. It's providing a confidential service, a professional service, of course. It's a quality service against cheap amateurism. I know somebody who knows English. That's why we say English. He knows English. Less traveling, saving time and money, reducing pollution, risks, and complicated arrangements. What is important is that exotic linguistic combinations and highly specialized skills are only a click away, irrespective of our colleagues' domicile. Environment-friendly, Katalava caters for users or interpreters permanently or provisionally incapacitated, for people dedicated to parenting and family care, and the same opportunity is offered to any other user or interpreter already out of town for any given reason. And there is an example of a colleague of ours, Anna, coming from Spain, and she decided to add Greek. And she did that the right way. She came and she started working in Athens, and it's her 5th year. I think that she studied in La Laguna beforehand. For 5 years, she has been working as a translator and a secretary, because it was impossible for her to work with Spanish English or Spanish Italian on the Athens market. With Katalava, she could have been working for her Spanish clients or colleagues. So, and this will be my conclusion, as a member of the interpreters community, after the I, the we, now we all, Katalava caters for an active role of conference interpreters in a disruptive environment. We have competitors, and many people ask, what's the difference? Well, the difference is that we are not a marketplace. The difference is that we are working in a real network with certified interpreters, and we are discussing with them about rates, about the option system, about how it will work and what it will do, and so on and so forth. We are there only for the technical part. We give the floor to conference interpreters, our colleagues, and we are doing that in a consensual manner, and we are the only ones that I've heard of doing that. Second, of course, Katalava seeks to enrich the education professionals with new tools for interpreters, training in simultaneous interpretation, tools and ideas to be further discussed and developed, because we do not define ourselves as trainers or as education professionals. We are here to discuss, to present ideas. Some of them are very interesting and they are very similar to what we want and what we can do, but it's up to you to decide if those ideas are interesting. Sessions recording, for instance. But here, it's interesting. On our platform, when you have the one-to-one, you can deactivate the sound of one of the speakers, either the original or the interpreter, so that you can concentrate on the other guy. So if you are a trainer, you can listen to both of them simultaneously in order to control the rhythm of the interpretation and so on and so forth. And then you can listen only to the original in order to see where the difficult part will appear, and then turn immediately to the interpreter in order to see how, with what strategy he will tackle this difficulty. And just an example. An expert on the meeting facilitator from somewhere in the world, Russia, China, without having to pay travel expenses. He can deliver a speech to be interpreted in many languages in parallel by many colleagues, each one being monitored in real time. Trainees can work from different locations in a virtual booth in order to learn how to work together, of course. Training communities, there are more and more of them. Fotinia Apostolou, today from Thessaloniki, Leah and Alina are very good examples of things that we used to do even when we were young, but now online and in a very systematic way. And I do believe, of course, that the community has to be structured and has to have the right tools. But it's not up to me to discuss those matters. Schools and universities could elaborate an evaluation tool based on recorded hours of individual practice, eventually. And best practices might arise with the contribution of the trainees themselves as to how they could use training sessions on Katalava as a certified procedure for their CV. It's up to them. We are here in order to discuss all that. And of course, any colleague can post a session on a personal web page, accessible to clients, in order to advertise or communicate his specific skills and languages. That's it for Katalava. We hope that we'll be able to do of Katalava a real tool for world trade growth with new market segments and new training and job opportunities for conference interpreters. Thank you for your attention and your questions.
Thank you. Is there any question or comment on this presentation?
Yannis, if I well understood, Yannis, I'm here.
Oh,
hello. If I well understood, so this is a platform for both for providing interpreting services and for providing training. Is that true?
No.
No.
This is a platform designed in order to make conference interpreters who are working with this platform have more money. It's a business project. We are not a technological company. We have a network, and we intend to expand this network, and this is it. But we understand that this technology allows for training. So one part has been already covered by the SKICS project. Another part is not covered. So we are open to ideas and discussion, and we do not know, because we are not specialists, we do not know how it could really be useful. I mean, somebody could record 50 hours of interpretation on Katalava and then go to an interpretation agency and tell them, listen, I have 50 hours. You can have them. I don't know if it's a good idea. This is why I said beforehand that even training communities should be structured and have a proper way to do things. And of course, schools and universities already do. They are the real specialists. So I'm just presenting what I have, a tool. It's up to them to tell me if it might be interesting or not.
So, is there a pilot project for that? So is it already in action? Is it already operational? Okay. And what is the connection between the interpreter and the final client?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that question. The connection between the interpreter and the client?
Yes, the interpreter. So, and the person to whom the service is addressed. So, client.
The client comes to our platform, Katalava,
yes, right?
And he says, I want Chinese interpretation, Mongolian interpretation, and Russian interpretation on those days for those hours.
Right.
I give you the option for Mongolian, I give Haris for Chinese, I give Penny for Russian, and if you say yes, we confirm, we work, he pays, I pay.
And so, do you work as a platform who takes a commission on interpreters?
I hate the word commission.
Okay.
I'm an interpreter. I'm not a merchant.
Okay, I do not hate that, but
well, I do not like the word commission. There are more, it has nothing to do with an interpretation agency. We need people, we need money for this sort of platform. There is development, there's business development.
Yes, all right, I agree
Don't
with that.
dream
No
of
problem.
a 3 or 5%.
No problem with that.
Don't dream of those kind of percentages.
I do not
So
dream
it is not a
anything.
commission. We have clients, and we ask you if you want to work on this day for this client. If you say yes, and we agree, and we have already a contract, of course, you work for him and you are paid, full stop.
Okay,
I cannot understand the question, what is the relationship between interpreter and client? I am your client.
Okay.
And I have other clients.
And
we work by relay.
Who pays the interpreter?
Me.
You. Okay. Thank you.
And why is that? Because we want to have a professional platform.
Okay.
We do not let clients choose interpreters, because otherwise it's a marketplace. Oh, he asked for 400, he asked for 800, I'll take the first one. No. Because it's not an easy problem to give a solution to. The fact that with the system we all know, we had the regions, and regions had the cost of life. The cost of life is different in Geneva and in Athens or Beirut. Now, how can I have a flat rate for all colleagues if I have a Lebanese colleague, a Swiss colleague, a German colleague, and a Greek colleague? New problems, new questions. That's all about innovation. We do not have the answers. This is why I want a consensus. This is why I'm asking you for ideas.
Okay, and one more question, if you allow me.
But your last, because there's another one there.
About the copyright, you said that the product of the translation can be transmitted and reproduced. How you deal with the interpretation product copyright?
I consider that if a colleague accepts to work for a media,
yes,
that at the very same time he will be taking into account the fact that his interpretation will be online, maybe. So if he wants more money, he will ask me for more money. It's not up to me to decide on that. But I will be absolutely clear. If Putin is speaking... I'm sorry.
Yeah. Could we leave the questions till the end of the session, if you don't mind, because we've got... And we can talk later. With a glass of wine. I'm sure that it will be much more fruitful. Okay.
I'll be here.
I'll be brief. I'm interested in the pedagogical implications. Let's say I want to use your program with some students. Would there be a cost for me as a trainer to do so?
If I am associated to your project, we can discuss about that.
Okay.
If I'm not associated,
I think that's...
no.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much.